Welcome to the Freedom Founder Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Duggar. Now, have you ever asked yourself, am I living for my life's purpose? There are times in our lives when we must step back and reflect and see where we're at and see if we have to make some changes. Now, my guest today, Lynita Mitchell-Blackwell, had that time in her life, but we're going to talk about that a little bit later. We're going to start with a little bit of conversation about where she began. Lynita, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me, Zach. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you as well. So let's just start talking a little bit about, what you were doing as you began your entrepreneurial journey, or even before that, what you were doing before you started working for yourself.
Absolutely. So I actually started out as an accountant. My mother selected my major for me when I was in college because I had no idea. And she was like,
Sure.
you have to get a job where, you can stay employed. So
Yes.
I did that for a couple of years, got my CPA license. Was not really wild about it. I appreciate it now, but at the time, it was very structured, and I'm pretty outgoing and I love people and talking. So I went back to law school and I worked for a couple of firms. I did some litigation, real estate, and estate planning. So it just made sense for me to continue in that vein.
Yeah.
And because I was now a small business owner, I was learning a lot about small businesses. And so I
Yeah.
started to serve the population that looked like me. So that was entrepreneurs, small business owners. And so
Mhm.
that is really what put me on my path to where I am today.
Okay. So you
Yeah.
kind of got that beginning with mom pushing you in one direction, but
Yeah.
identifying that maybe that wasn't quite the full direction, and continuing to work with people though, and getting that law degree, and continuing that path where you now identified that, oh, I could help work with entrepreneurs and other people with these interests as well. Okay.
Exactly.
All right. Well, that's a good foundation. I've had that conversation with others where it's like I didn't know what I was going to study, but I knew I needed something I needed to get a job in. So
Yes.
now, along the way that you continued to expand in different ways because you identified needs or areas where you had additional expertise and experience. And so let's talk a little bit about that as you began doing some consulting with other companies and working with um, individuals. How did that grow? I mean, you started with one, and then kind of where did it expand, or how did it expand?
So the how was the interesting part. As I
Hmm.
was talking with just a handful of people, I noticed the same things were popping up.
Yeah.
For those people, and it's most people who don't have the business background,
Mm.
they do not understand the difference between revenue and income.
Okay.
Revenue being the money that is actually coming into the business, and it makes it look like you are just sitting on a pile. You've got a lot of money, right? But then you have to take into account what it takes to run your business, like
Mhm.
payroll. A lot of them weren't doing that. It was just, hey, I got money, let me spend it. Um, Mileage, your supplies, networking functions,
Yeah.
community and business and professional organization dues. It's a little bit here, a little bit there, but that revenue number starts to come down, and then
Hmm.
your income is actually what your business made. And in talking with a lot of people, we realized that this business that you thought was really profitable, not so much. And so you might want to consider doing things a little differently, and we would explore that and talk, or doing something different that maybe aligns with your skills, gifts, and talents a little better. Um, and in going through that process, it made me reevaluate where I was and how I got there. And so I wrote my first book, really small pocketbook, Leading
Hmm.
Through Living, a guide for women seeking growth through leadership. It was 47 pages. And I just put it out into the world, and people read it and it really resonated. And
Hmm.
I said it was for women, but the men who read it were like, this is for me too. You need to do stuff for us fellas, for the guys, And I'm like, guys, it's just I wrote it for women because I am a woman. But they were right. the struggle is the same no matter what, right? And so I
Yep.
started talking with people. The book is out there, so they're inviting me to come and speak to their groups. And what it came down to, Zach, was networking.
Mhm.
And I have always believed, and I am really stringent about it today, that the networking has to be built on a genuine care and love for people. If you are just in a room trying to something from somebody and all you're doing is taking, and you're not adding value, it never crosses your mind to ask, how can I help you? How can I be of service? Then this is going to be tiring. It is going to wear you out and you're going to hate
Mhm.
it. And so I just started sharing that with people and how I actually met one of my biggest sponsors for my major events just
Mhm.
because I was being a decent person in an elevator. you know,
Yeah.
these are what we would call little things, but they have the biggest impact in life. And so I started helping other people to get their message out. For some folks, it was making the transition to other businesses, which included getting their message out with their books, helping them become strong speakers, helping them to develop their networking skills. And that led to me developing my own company, well, companies actually, with
Mhm.
coaching. And so that's the intuitive business coaching that I do, as well as publishing and a media company.
That definitely got you a little bit busier.
Yeah, that's what we'll say a little bit.
Yeah. Well, when you get busier, sometimes that brings some additional stress on not just the mind, but also on the body. And sometimes that results in some things breaking down or challenges. Did you experience some of that when you were getting to that point where you were busier?
I feel like you just peeked into my soul, Zach. Because yes, yes, yes. So I was running the law firm.
Hmm.
My husband had been called into ministry, so we had a church that was two
Yeah.
hours away in Birmingham.
Okay.
Small child, wonderful, but still a lot of energy, right? And I have the speaking, my books and publishing company, and the media company.
Yeah.
And I was tired. I was exhausted. Forget tired. I was exhausted.
Hmm.
And my physical body started breaking down, which was the manifestation of my emotional and spiritual state, right? My hair started breaking off. And instead of saying, maybe I should like slow down, take better care of myself, drink some water, I just started wearing wigs. I had the most fabulous wig collection. I promise you that Beyonce would have been like, girl, I got to get in your closet. And, even when my nails and my skin started to break down as well, all I did was wear fabulous nails. I knew
Hmm.
where all of the best nail shops were. And I learned how to do my face like these Instagram models. I
Yep.
mean, just fabulous, right? Well, what was not fabulous and could not be painted over was when my, at the time, 6-year-old daughter found me passed out in the middle of the floor from exhaustion. And
Mhm.
I was too tired to put my child to bed. And
Mm.
I just thank God that she did not have the understanding of just how bad it was. She just thought mommy was tired. And so she got her Disney princess's blanket from her bed and she put it over me and a
Mhm.
little pillow under my head. And she said, "Good night, mama." And she kissed me on the head. And all I had the strength to do was say, "Good night, baby."
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
yes, yes, my body told me what was going on, and I just would not listen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Got to a point where it was real. It was impacting
Oh,
not
yeah.
just your skin, your nails, things you could do on the surface, but your exhaustion. Just like you said, that level of exhaustion. Yeah, I think sometimes people see that success in what somebody's doing, and they don't see what can occur when there is stress and challenges and busyness in the life, and how that can manifest in your body, and how you do have to step back and relax and reflect on, am I living out my life purpose? As I started this conversation with, and from our prior conversation, that was something that you had to ask yourself, and at some point in this
Yes.
journey, and to
Yes.
be able to reflect on and make some decisions as to how you were going to move forward to not only be successful in your continued endeavors, but also um, be able to take care of yourself so you could be there for your family.
That's exactly right. And I would love to tell you that that point of exhaustion was it, but that would not be
Uh-huh.
true. And we're friends, and I don't lie to my friends. um, but it was about 2 years later,
Mhm.
because I continued to spiral. I didn't reach out for or know how to seek the support I would need to make the hard pivot, right?
Yeah.
And so it wasn't until I developed stage 4 endometriosis and fibroids literally the size of grapefruits that resulted in me having a series of progressively horrible surgeries and
Yeah.
being on these medications that was so strong. Like literally one of them was a cancer drug
Yeah.
that I said, God, if you bring me through this, I promise I will get the support I need, the professional support I need to
Yep.
make the change and stick with it. And so I hired a performance coach, Rowena Silvera Bet,
Hmm.
who had me list everything I was involved in. And Zach, it was 7 pages, single
Oh, wow.
space. Yeah. And she
Uh,
was like, oh, we got to get this down to 2. And
uh-huh.
it took us 2 years.
Yep.
Because when you're leading organizations, when you are
Hmm.
serving in positions of leadership, you don't just throw up your hands and say bye y'all,
Right.
and expect that the things that you have worked for, that you have invested so much time, money, resource, your health in, are going to still be there when you decide to pop back up, right? And
Yep.
so it was a structured taper down. It was handing the reins off, training someone.
Hmm.
And then for one organization, they didn't want to hear that, no, really, I have to step away. And it was just saying, I leave you in love and walking away and
Hmm.
being good with it. And the way that we were able to do that was to, like you said, determine what exactly is in line with and aligned with my purpose today. Because for many of those organizations and those roles that I took before, it was in line with the purpose of achievement, of success, or the success definitions I had then. I had really tied up my self worth to being visible and
Hmm.
and and serving in these roles that had the title, and they were really taking me down. And so we had to get rid of those things,
Yep.
and then to be good with leaving those open spaces open, because those were the spaces where healing needed to occur. And
Yeah.
I know that's hard, particularly as small business owners, as entrepreneurs, as parents, as people just living, right?
Hmm.
We are taught that we have to stay busy. If we're not moving, then we are not moving forward. And we just might as well lay down in the floor and just roll over and die, right? And it's
Yes.
not true. You need time to rest, to rejuvenate, to refocus, to reevaluate your life and the people and the relationships and the organizations that you're involved that are in taking up space, right? And from time to time, and so now I do this every quarter, and I encourage my clients to do the same, to reevaluate all those things and see what has to go and what gets to stay.
Yeah. Yep, that's wise. That's wise to really take that time, especially for yourself, so you can reflect back on what it is that you're needing to do, what you
Yes,
should be doing, what has to go, what can stay,
yes,
and helping to define what's that life that is excellent versus a perfect life that you perceive. And so, can you talk a little bit about that topic of an excellent life versus a perfect life?
absolutely. So the excellent life is the one that we're striving for, but we don't know it yet
Hmm.
because we've all been trained to go for the perfect one. If you
Yeah.
look at the definition of perfection, it is meeting or exceeding standards. But I have to ask you, Zach, who set those standards? We were all
Right.
given this list, right? This checklist that said, if you work hard, then you will be rewarded. And the reward changes as we get older because when we're in school, it's good grades. And then when we get a job, it's raises and promotions. When we open our business, it's clients, recognition, and honorary societies. It is being respected. When it's our families, it's being loved and appreciated and supported. But it's always a list that someone else gave you. And
Yep.
so that's the perfect life. And I got to the point where I was just like, you know what? This is not my list. And the people who gave it to me were well meaning. They loved me, they supported me, and they did what they knew to do. And we all get to a place where we can't blame anybody else for where we are in life anymore. That we are in control of who we are, what we are, and how we serve, as Paul Selig says so beautifully in his books, right? And so now it's time to make a transition to an excellent life. The excellent life is the understanding that we are writing the checklist. And because we're writing it, we can put things on and we can take things off as we need to. So there is grace built into that list. And we understand that it's going to change as we change. So what's excellent now in my 40s, it's not going to be excellent in my 60s, and it shouldn't
Mhm.
be, right? And it also requires us to redefine what success means. Now, for me, success meant money, it meant a good home, a great family, it meant a thriving career, and it meant respect in my professions, right?
Mhm.
And so I did all those things. I was serving in at least three different roles at one time. But now I needed something else because while those things made me happy, I realized that happiness is temporary, and it is externally driven.
Yep.
I was looking for something that was joyful. So that's the step beyond happy. So, yes, I still have those wonderful things that I worked hard for. We all have to have a roof over our head, right? Um, but I don't define my self esteem that way. I don't define a successful life that way. A successful life now is peace, joy, and fulfillment. And I encourage all my clients to create their own definition of what success looks like. The only rule is it can't be based on stuff. So it can't be anything external to you because
Yep.
once those things are gone, what now?
Mm, right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, you mentioned happiness and joy and the focus on one over the other.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about how that affects performance and your decisions, how you make them?
Oh, absolutely. So, if happiness is externally driven, then that
Mhm.
means that someone always has control over your emotional state. Now, I don't know about you, Zach. Well, actually, I do because we've talked, right? There's no way you're going to allow somebody that kind of power and control over you, not on purpose, right? And so, if we think about it from the perspective of this is the emotional state I always want to have, and we know that happiness is not going to get it done, then we have to look for something else. And joy is sustainable. Joy is ongoing because joy is an inside job. I can be
Mhm.
joyful no matter what is going on. Now, it doesn't mean I'm happy. And I need everybody to catch this. I'm not happy if my house is burning down, but I can be joyful because I can be grateful that I'm not in the house burning with it.
Yep.
Right. And so if we take it from that perspective, and apply that now to our performance and our interaction with our coworkers and the people that we're working and serving with in our professional organizations as well as community and civic, right? We can look at it from the perspective of I may not be happy with or may not even like some of the people that I'm working with, but I can still have joy that I'm in this place and I'm learning from them how to be and how not to be. I can take the skills, the gifts, the talents, the resources that I see they clearly have and not take the attitude that they clearly have as well. I can be grateful to be in this place where I am getting what I need, which at this point is the money that I want to live the life that I enjoy, the physical one, right? The one that requires us to put gas in the car and food on the table. And I'm being very basic here because I think a lot of people would take this message to mean like, oh, she just threw up her hands and went to live on the hill, right? No, I still practice law. I'm still a wife and a mom. So there are challenging days in that. and there are good ones as well. But no matter what, I am still maintaining and cultivating a life of joy, which requires gratitude and thanksgiving. So that's the baseline of all of it. And so when we take that, we can apply that in equal measure at work, at home, and wherever we are. And it allows us to show up as an authentic person. One of the things that I noticed about myself early in my career versus where I am today is that I had at least two different faces. Growing up, we called it code switching, where you were one person at work and you were another person at home. And the code switch would depend on who was around, right? And we do it for protection because we don't want people to see all of us because there might be something about that they find distasteful and it might impact our career, the way that they introduce us, perceive us, the types of work assignments we get. But once you get to a place where you are genuinely joyful and grateful for what is going on within you and without, then that person who chooses to perceive this beautiful, wonderful person that you are in a negative way, you understand that y'all were never going to vibe. Whatever came from them was going to fall apart. And that spirit, or the God of your understanding, however you want to think about it, is going to bring you and align you with the people that you need to be with so you can get to where you always wanted to be.
Yeah. 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 I really like that. I like that cultivating a life of joy, how that fosters that attitude of gratitude and thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I think that that's real powerful. I mean, you hear a lot about being thankful for the small things, and when you're focused on that life of joy, that really can lend itself to being thankful for the small things in the everyday. Because you're right, you're not up on the hill and putting your hair up like you said. There's still challenges, there's still things going on every day that you still have to deal with. So I want to get real practical. One thing that you had mentioned is, what's a great way to start the day to help minimize stress and drama in your life?
Yes, so I call those emergencies. So drama and emergencies, you put those together, right? One of the things that I do is I have my phone on Do Not Disturb, and it stays on until 7 o'clock. There are a few people who are able to break through that, like, of course, my parents and my siblings. But anything outside of that, that's a no. And that allows me the time I need in the quiet of the morning because both my husband and daughter, they are night owls. So when I'm
Mhm.
up, they sometimes are just getting in bed. Oh my goodness. And so I can do my prayers, I can do my meditations, I can do my breathing as well as my stretching. And it takes about an hour or two, depending on what is going on and how much I have to release, right? But by the time 7 o'clock comes and my phone starts sending in the text messages, the emails, the voicemails sometimes, I'm ready.
Mhm.
And my day is not hijacked by the emergencies that were so important you had to send that at 2 o'clock in the morning. Really?
Yes. Right. The emergencies, yeah,
Yeah.
I can definitely understand that, yes, and I really like that too, getting up and just having that time intentionally to get your day started in a way that you can be prepared, your body, soul, mind, spirit, you're ready for the day. So I think that's a real practical tip, and I encourage others to really take advantage of your device's ability to control your time
Yes.
in a good way. Put that do not disturb on so it doesn't control your time in a negative way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I want to ask you one other question that I like to ask all of my guests. If you were to be handed $1 million today, no restrictions attached to it, what would you do with that to invest in your business or another endeavor, and why?
Yeah, so every dime that comes into our home is assigned the same way.
Mhm.
And by my home, I am also talking about my business, right?
Yeah.
So the first 2.5%, as well as the second 10%, goes to tithes.
Okay.
And then the next 10% after that is split up in thirds, with one third going into investments. So your IRA, your 401k, stocks, bonds, whatever, right?
Mhm.
A third being set aside for those who are less fortunate.
Yeah.
So if you see someone on the street, you can hand them something, right? And
Mhm.
then the other third goes into a vacation fund
Mhm.
because we all need time to break away. So after that, I would take that cool meal that has now
Mhm.
been reinvested into my community, into myself, into our home, to staff up, bring in more people who I can train in this methodology of an ultimate successful life full of peace, joy, and fulfillment so
Yeah.
that they can help me to share this message. Because, Zach, one of the things that I have seen is that this resonates with just about everybody. I
Mhm.
don't care if you have your own business or you are working on your career, where you live in the world, how you serve, how you worship, what you look like. We all were given the same checklist that
Yep.
work hard, succeed, be happy. And we're all on the same hamster wheel until we wake up and say, what? No, well, I'm not going anywhere. We have to redefine and we have to straight burn this life down that we have, or this mindset, which is really what it is, right?
Yep.
And create a new strategy, a new paradigm. We have to do it. But it
Yeah.
takes time and it takes commitment. And I'm honest with people that this was a 10-year process in the making. It took working with incredible professionals, starting with Rowena, with my performance coach, and now working with Jill, my soul activist, and continuing on this path because when we're talking about working with other professionals, it is important that you are still a professional. Is
Mhm.
why I made the joke about I'm not like living on the top of the mountain. I didn't throw my hands up and give everything away. Because if we're serious about people changing their mindset, people do what they see, they follow action. You can talk all day long, but if you're not living the life, you're not living the dream, as they say, it really
Mhm.
doesn't mean anything. So
Yeah.
that's what I would do with my cool meal. You got that cool meal for me, Zach?
I wish I did. I mean, I love that answer though. I mean, that really just has that really intentional focus right on that front end. Like you said, that first 2.5, the next 10%, the next 10%. You really are intentional about the funds. And I'm sure at least some of that would go back to becoming a CPA early on. So there's some different ways you can be thankful about that, right?
There are, but I have to give honor where it's due. I actually got that model from Dr. Larry Reed.
Okay.
He is an incredible businessman with several ventures, and he's actually based here in Atlanta. And I
Okay.
listen to him weekly. And once I implemented that system, things just started taking off like that.
Yeah. That's excellent. Well, I encourage people to check his work out as well. Now, if anybody wants to find out more about the work that you're doing, your books, your speaking engagements, coaching, what's the best way for someone to connect with you?
My website is LynitaMitchell-Blackwell.com. Lynita spelled Lynita. And you can get copies of my books, all five of them. Subscribe to my email list so you know what's going on. We can connect on social. You follow, I follow back. And let's stir up and have a wonderful relationship and conversation.
I love that. Perfect. All right. I encourage people do reach out to Lynita. She is a wealth of knowledge and experience and really a strong encourager as well. So thank you, Lynita, for your time today. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much